because I do believe there has been substantial economic advancement in this country, which has had an effect politically in keeping the ruling party relatively cohesive and, of course, still at levels of about 62% when it comes to voting at election time. 70% of South Africans have experienced some sort of income migration over the course of the last 15 to 20 years or so. The number of upper-income black households in South Africa is growing substantially at perhaps more than 20% per annum, and hundreds of thousands of people are expected over the next 2 years to move up from that bottom income category. It's a fair achievement, and it's probably enough of an achievement for the ruling party to continue to lock in that support when it comes to election time. Incomes for black South Africans also certainly have increased over the course of the last 15, 18 years or so. Again, enough good reason for most black South Africans to continue to support the ruling party. 62% of all homes in South Africa are now owned by black South Africans. Yes, many of those homes are poor, badly built, subject to extraordinarily poor tender deals, but still, a home-owning class has appeared in this country for the first time, really, in our generation. And again, probably enough of an incentive for people to continue, for the moment anyway, to support the ruling party. And these attributes of the last 15, 20 years in South Africa, I don't think are insignificant, and I wouldn't want to belittle them. I'm going to be critical in a moment, but I think this is the good news of South Africa. I also think that the news of this last week is not too bad. A decent fourth quarter job creation statistical overview seems to be with us. We've created about 400,000 jobs, formal sector jobs in the last quarter of last year. President Zuma referred to it last night in his address. Of course he would. He needs to explain his successes. And I think it is a reasonable issue with which to assume some sort of credit or take some sort of credit. Whether this is sustainable for this year and into the future, I think the jury is out on that, and I'm not sure whether we will sustain that level of job creation. Of course, what's the big problem? We've all mentioned it, we all know it. Unemployment. Now, unemployment rate, this graph shows a global unemployment rate comparison in 2010. So it's certainly not at 2011 levels, but our unemployment now at 23.9%. Zuma again last night took credit, I suppose, for the 1.1% official drop in unemployment, is edging down slightly. The Spanish unemployment rate is now over 20%. The Greeks announced this morning that their unemployment rate was about 21% in Greece. So indeed, not that our position is particularly rosy, but again, when comparison to so many of these other countries, we see almost a sort of a convergence between South Africa and some of the formerly, let us say, more attractive countries of Europe. So what have we done to combat this? And what does it mean politically? Well, to combat unemployment and poverty, we rolled out over the course of the last decade one of the most sophisticated and I believe one of the most fastest and perhaps almost most efficient rollouts of a social security safety net system for South Africans. It took a decade, and we managed to now get to a position where 15 million South Africans rely upon social income grants every single month. Now, let me just go back to that slide. When 15 million people out of 50 million, or let us say out of 40 million black South Africans, rely upon social income grants, again, you lock in a degree of political support. You might be thinking, well, is government buying political support? Well, maybe it is buying political support. It's a byproduct of rolling out this safety net to South Africans. In terms of buying political support, the public service salary bill in South Africa has doubled over the past 5 years. Doubled. And again, as our public service becomes more bloated as opposed to the private sector, we put more people in a position of reliance upon the state, and we lock them in as well to supporting the state.